The morning sun painted the coral reefs in shades of gold and pink. Dr. Hana swam through the warm waters near the outer edge of the reef, collecting samples for her research. She loved these quiet mornings when the ocean felt like it belonged only to her. The Valanthi people had lived on this moon for thousands of years, building their cities beneath and above the waves. They were peaceful, curious, and dedicated to understanding the universe through science and art, not violence. Something caught her eye. A dark shape rested between two coral formations half buried in the sand. At first she thought it might be a fallen satellite or space debris. They occasionally found such things. But as she swam closer, her heart began to race. This was no satellite. It was a vessel, small and damaged, with strange markings burned into its hull. Hana called for help immediately. Within an hour, a team arrived with equipment and tools. They carefully opened the escape pod, not knowing what they would find inside. What they discovered made everyone step back in shock. A creature lay crumpled in the small space, clearly not Valanthi. Its skin was pale, covered in terrible burns. One of its legs was crushed and twisted at an unnatural angle. Blood red like sunset pooled beneath it. "Is it alive?" someone whispered. Hana checked for vital signs. Yes, barely. The creature's chest moved slightly, struggling for each breath. She had never seen anything like this being before. It had 2 arms, 2 legs, hair on its head, and a face that somehow looked capable of great emotion even in unconsciousness. "We need to take it to the medical center now," Hana ordered. They moved the stranger carefully into their transport. Hana stayed by its side, monitoring the weak pulse. As they traveled back to the city, one of her colleagues examined the pod's damaged computer system. What he found made him go silent. "Hana, you need to see this," he said quietly. The black box recording played on a small screen. It showed massive ships attacking a colony vessel. Explosions, screams, chaos. The colony ship was torn apart by weapons fire. Escape pods launched in all directions. Most were destroyed immediately. Only a handful made it away from the carnage. The recording ended with the stranger, this dying being in front of her, sealing himself in the pod and launching into the darkness of space. Who would do this? Hana asked, her voice shaking. The attacking ships had symbols on them. "I'll check our database." At the medical center, Hana's team worked for hours to stabilize the stranger. His injuries were severe. The radiation poisoning alone should have killed him days ago, but somehow impossibly he clung to life. His body fought with a stubbornness that amazed her. She used every piece of technology they had, including their most advanced bioregeneration machines. While she worked, her colleague returned with information about the symbols. His face was pale. "The ships belong to something called the Krythos Collective. Our database has very little information, but what we have is terrifying. They're an empire that conquers other species. They take everything, resources, technology, sometimes even the people themselves as slaves. They've destroyed dozens of civilizations." Hana felt cold despite the warm room. "And this creature escaped from them?" "It appears so." News of the discovery spread quickly through the city. By evening, the council had called an emergency meeting. Elder Mirai, the leader of their people, listened carefully as Hana presented what they had found. The council chamber was filled with worried voices. "We should send it back into space," one council member argued. "If the Krythos are looking for survivors, we don't want them finding one here." "Send him back?" Hana said sharply. "He'll die. He's barely alive now. Better one creature dies than the Krythos discover our world." Another voice added. Hana stood up, her voice strong. "We are Valanthi. We have built our entire civilization on the principles of compassion and healing. Are we going to abandon those principles the moment they become difficult? This being came to our world by accident. He's hurt, alone, and helpless. If we turn our backs on him, what does that say about who we are?" The chamber went quiet. Elder Mirai studied Hana for a long moment, then looked at the medical data displayed on the screens. "Dr. Hana is right," Mirai finally said. "We cannot let fear turn us into something we're not. This stranger will receive our care and our protection. If he survives, we will give him sanctuary. This is my decision." Not everyone agreed, but the elder's word was final. For 3 weeks, Daeho remained unconscious. The bioregeneration technology slowly repaired his damaged body. His burns healed, leaving only faint scars. His crushed leg was rebuilt bone by bone. The radiation was purged from his system. Hana visited him every day, checking his progress and wondering what kind of being he was. What was his name? Where did he come from? Did he have a family? Were they all gone? On the 24th day, his eyes opened. Deho stared at the ceiling, confused and disoriented. Everything hurt, but it was a distant pain, like his body remembered suffering but no longer felt it fully. He tried to remember what had happened. The attack. The screaming. The pod. Darkness. He turned his head and saw someone sitting beside his bed. A being with smooth blue-green skin, large dark eyes, and delicate features. Not human. Not Krythos. Something else entirely. She noticed he was awake and smiled gently. "Hello," she said in a language he didn't understand, but her tone was kind, reassuring. Deho tried to speak, but his throat was too dry. She brought water to his lips, helping him drink. It tasted strange but good. He managed a single word in his own language. Safe. She didn't understand the word, but she seemed to understand the question. She placed a gentle hand on his arm and nodded. Safe. Yes, he was safe. For the first time since the attack, tears rolled down Deho's face, not from pain or fear, but from something he thought he'd lost forever. Hope. Learning to communicate took time. Hana brought translation devices and spent hours each day with Deho, teaching him Valanthi words while learning his language in return. His people, he told her, were called humans. They came from a planet called Earth far across the galaxy. His colony ship had been traveling to establish a new settlement when the Krythos attacked. How many survived? Hana asked gently. Deho's face went dark. I don't know. Maybe no one. The ship had 3,000 people, families, children. His voice broke. I watched them die. I couldn't save anyone. I just ran. You didn't run. You survived. There's a difference, Hana said firmly, and now you can honor their memory by living. But Deho struggled with that idea. He had nightmares every night. He would wake up screaming, reliving the attack. Sometimes he couldn't remember where he was and would panic, thinking the Krythos had found him. Hana and her medical team provided counseling and therapy. But healing his mind took longer than healing his body. Hana's younger sibling, Juno, became fascinated with Deho. Juno was curious about everything and loved meeting beings from other worlds, though they had met very few. They visited Deho every day, bringing food, books, and endless questions. What's Earth like? Juno asked eagerly. Deho smiled slightly, the first real smile Hana had seen from him. It's beautiful. Blue oceans, green forest, high mountains. We have one moon instead of being one. The sunsets turn the sky orange and purple. Tell me more, Juno insisted. So Deho began sharing stories about humanity. He told them about music, how humans created beautiful sounds that could make you feel joy or sadness. He sang songs from Earth, his voice rough but sincere. He told them about art, about history, about the wars humans had fought against each other before finally learning to work together. Wars? Juno asked, confused. You fought your own people? For a long time, yes, Deho admitted. We're not perfect. We can be violent, selfish, and cruel. But we can also be brave, loyal, and kind. We're complicated. The Valanthi had never fought wars among themselves. The concept disturbed them, but they were also intrigued. Humans seemed capable of both terrible and wonderful things. They were survivors, adapting to any situation. They were warriors when needed, but they also created beauty and sought peace. As weeks passed, Deho grew stronger. He could walk again, though he still limped slightly. He explored the Valanthi city, amazed by its beauty. The buildings were made from coral and crystals, grown rather than built. Gardens floated on the water's surface. Art was everywhere, expressing the Valanthi love of harmony and nature. But Deho noticed something troubling. The Valanthi had no military, no weapons, no defenses. When he asked about this, Hana explained their philosophy. We believe violence only creates more violence. We've survived by staying hidden and by treating others with respect. If someone comes here, we offer friendship, not hostility. Deho felt his chest tighten with fear. Hana, that won't work with the Krythos. They don't care about friendship or respect. They only understand power. If they find this place, your people will be destroyed. We've been hidden for thousands of years, Hana replied calmly. Why would they find us now? Because they're expanding. They're consuming everything in their path. Eventually, they'll come here. Deho grabbed her hand urgently. Please, you need to prepare. Build defenses. Train soldiers, something. But Hana shook her head. That's not who we are, Deho. We won't become warriors just because we're afraid. The conversation troubled both of them. Deho began having private meetings with Elder Mirai and the council, trying to make them understand the danger. He showed them the recordings from his pod. He explained Krythos' tactics and technology, but the council remained unconvinced. "We appreciate your concern," Elder Mirai said kindly, "but we have survived this long by trusting in peace. We will not abandon our principles." Despite his frustration, Deho began to care deeply for the Valanthi. They had saved his life when they could have left him to die. They had shown him kindness without expecting anything in return. Hana especially became important to him. She was brilliant, compassionate, and patient with his moments of darkness. One evening they sat together watching the sunset over the ocean. The sky turned shades of violet and gold. "I never thought I'd see beauty like this again," Deho said quietly. "After the attack I thought beauty was gone from the universe. But you and your people showed me I was wrong," Hana smiled. "Beauty never leaves. Sometimes we just need help seeing it again." "Hana, I want to ask the council something. I want to stay here, permanently. This place, your people, this feels like home now." She looked surprised and pleased. "Really, you'd want to stay?" "If you'll have me." The next day, Deho appeared before the council to make his request. Elder Mirai listened thoughtfully as he explained his wish to become part of Valanthi society. "We would be honored to accept you," Mirai said, "but you must understand our conditions. If you stay, you must embrace our way of life. That means no violence, no weapons, no preparation for war. Can you agree to this?" Deho hesitated. Every instinct told him they needed to prepare for the inevitable. But looking at their hopeful faces, at Hana's encouraging smile, he made his choice. "I agree," he said. "I'll follow your ways." The council celebrated his acceptance. Deho was given a home, a position working with the engineering teams, and full citizenship. For the first time since the attack, he felt like he belonged somewhere. The nightmares came less frequently. He laughed more. He began to hope that maybe, just maybe, he could leave his violent past behind and live in peace. But in the back of his mind, a small voice whispered a warning he tried to ignore. The Krythos were still out there, still expanding, still destroying, and one day they would come. 6 months passed like a peaceful dream. Deho had become part of the community. He worked with the engineering teams, helping them improve their water purification systems and energy collectors. The Valanthi children loved him, always asking for stories about Earth and the stars. Juno had become his closest friend, and Hana was something more. They hadn't spoken about it directly, but everyone could see the way they looked at each other. On a warm evening, Deho and Hana walked along the beach together. The bioluminescent waves glowed soft blue with each movement. She took his hand and he squeezed gently. "I'm happy you stayed," Hana said softly. "So am I," Deho replied. "For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." The peace shattered the next morning. Alarms rang throughout the city, a sound most Valanthi had never heard before. The emergency broadcast system activated, something that had been silent for generations. Everyone gathered in confusion and fear as the message repeated, "Unknown vessel detected in orbit. Unknown vessel detected in orbit." Deho's blood turned cold. He ran to the observation center where the council had gathered. On the main screen, a large ship hung in space above their moon. He recognized the design immediately. His worst nightmare had come true. "Krythos," he whispered. Elder Mirai stood at the center of the room, trying to maintain calm. "We will send a diplomatic delegation. We'll explain that we mean no harm and offer friendship." "No," Deho shouted. "You can't. They'll kill your delegates. They don't do diplomacy. They take what they want." "We must try," Mirai insisted. "Violence is not our way." Against Deho's desperate protests, 3 volunteers boarded a small shuttle and flew up to meet the Krythos ship. Deho, Hana, and the entire council watched the video feed in tense silence. The shuttle docked with the massive warship. The delegates stepped inside carrying gifts and messages of peace. They were led to a dark chamber where a tall, insect-like creature waited. This was Commander Vex, leader of this Krythos unit. His multiple eyes gleamed with cold intelligence. The Valanthi delegates bowed respectfully and began their prepared speech about friendship and cooperation. Vex listened without expression. When they finished, he clicked his mandibles together, which might have been laughter. "Friendship," Vex said in perfect Valanthi, his voice like grinding metal. "An interesting concept. The Krythos collective does not need friends. We need resources. Your moon has valuable minerals. Your people have advanced biological technology. Both belong to us now. The lead delegate stepped forward. We cannot give you those things. This is our home. But perhaps we can reach a compromise? There is no compromise, Vex said flatly. You have 48 hours to surrender completely. Open your cities, disable your technology, and submit to collective authority. If you refuse, we will take what we want by force. And if we surrender? The delegate asked, voice shaking. Will you leave us in peace? Peace? Vex tilted his head. No, but we might let some of you live as workers. Perhaps if you prove useful. The delegates were sent back to their shuttle, shaken and horrified. Back in the observation center, the council sat in stunned silence as the delegates reported what had happened. We need to fight, Deho said urgently. I know you don't want to, but you have no choice now. Let me help you. I can show you how to build defenses, how to prepare. We have 48 hours. That's not much, but it's something. The council debated for hours. Some agreed with Deho. Others insisted that violence would only make things worse. Finally, Elder Miri made an announcement that made Deho's heart sink. We have decided, Miri said heavily. We will offer Deho to the Krythos. What? Hana jumped to her feet. You can't. Perhaps they are here looking for human survivors, Miri explained. If we give them Deho, it might satisfy them. They might leave us alone. They won't, Deho shouted. This has nothing to do with me. They want your world. Giving me up won't save you. Nevertheless, we must try every peaceful option, Miri said firmly. I'm sorry, Deho. You've been a good friend to us. But we must think of our people first. Security forces entered the chamber. Deho didn't resist as they bound his hands. He looked at the council members, at the people he had come to love and protect. They were sending him to certain death to buy a peace that would never come. The betrayal hurt worse than any physical wound. Hana ran to him, tears streaming down her face. I won't let them do this. It's okay, Deho said quietly, though his voice shook. I understand. You have to try to save your people. I don't blame you. Deho, take care of Juno, he interrupted, and take care of yourself. When the Krathos come for you, and they will, don't give up. Fight, promise me. Before she could answer, the guards pulled him away. Juno pushed through the crowd, reaching for him. Deho, no! Deho looked back one last time at the faces of the people he loved. Then the doors closed, and he was led to a shuttle bound for the Krythos ship. As the shuttle lifted off, Deho watched his new home grow smaller below him. The peaceful cities, the glowing waters, the people who had saved him only to sacrifice him. He had promised to live peacefully among them. But as the dark shape of the Krythos warship filled the viewport, something old and dangerous stirred inside him. The soldier he had tried to bury was waking up. And this time he wasn't going to hide. Commander Vex studied the human standing before him with multiple curious eyes. Deho stood straight despite the chains on his wrists, meeting the alien's gaze without flinching. The Krythos commander clicked his mandibles in what might have been amusement. So the Valanthi offer you as a gift, Vex said. How disappointing. I expected more creativity from them. They're peaceful people, Deho replied quietly. They don't understand what you are. And what am I? Vex leaned closer, his breath smelling of chemicals and metal. A monster, Deho said flatly. Vex made that clicking sound again. Perhaps, but monsters survive while the weak perish. Your colony learned that lesson. The Valanthi will learn it soon. You're going to attack them anyway, Deho said, not a question but a statement, of course. Did you think giving you up would save them? How naive. This moon has resources worth taking and technology worth studying. Their surrender merely makes the invasion easier. Vex turned away. Take him to the cells. He might be useful for studying human biology. The guards dragged Deho through the dark corridors of the warship. The walls pulsed with strange organic technology. Other prisoners huddled in cells, beings from species Deho had never seen before. All of them looked broken, hopeless. The guards threw him into an empty cell and the energy barrier sealed behind him. Alone in the darkness, Deho allowed himself a moment of despair. He had tried so hard to protect the Valanthi, to warn them, to prepare them. They had chosen peace over survival, and had sacrificed him for nothing. The bitter irony wasn't lost on him. He had finally found a home, people to care about, and now he would watch them die from his prison cell. Hours passed. Then the announcement came over the ship's speakers, spoken in multiple languages so everyone could understand. The 48 hours have expired. The invasion begins now. Daiho pressed his face against the energy barrier, looking out at the viewport that showed the moon below. He could see smaller ships launching from the warship, descending like falling stars toward the peaceful world. Down on Thalassia, alarms blared across every city. The Valanthi had spent the past 2 days in desperate debate, praying that surrendering Daiho would be enough. Now they understood the truth. Elder Mirai stood before the council, her face filled with regret. "We were wrong," she said simply. "Daiho tried to warn us. We didn't listen. Now we face the consequences of our pride." Hana stood among the council, her fists clenched. "So what do we do now?" "We evacuate as many as we can," Mirai said. "Take the children, the elderly, anyone who cannot fight. Send them to the underwater caves. They might survive there. And the rest of us?" someone asked. Mirai's voice hardened with determination. "We fight, not because we want to, but because we must. We protect those who cannot protect themselves." The first Krythos dropships landed near the capital city. Armed soldiers poured out, their weapons humming with deadly energy. The Valanthi defenders had only basic tools and improvised weapons. They had never fought a war before. Many died in the first moments, not knowing how to dodge or take cover. But they learned quickly. Fear and desperation made them adapt. They used their knowledge of the terrain, luring Krythos soldiers into the shallow waters where they struggled to move. They sabotaged equipment, set traps, and fought with surprising fierceness for a peaceful people. Hana led a group of volunteers in defending the medical center. Juno fought beside her, using an engineer's plasma cutter as a weapon. When Krythos soldiers broke through their defenses, Juno held them off while others escaped with the patients. "Go," Juno shouted to Hana. "Get them out!" "I won't leave you. Someone has to hold them here. I'm the youngest, the fastest. Now go!" Hana fled with the others, looking back to see Juno facing the enemy alone. It was the last time she saw them alive. Elder Mirai was captured trying to activate the emergency broadcast system to coordinate evacuations. The Krythos soldiers dragged her before Commander Vex, who had descended to the surface to oversee the conquest personally. "Your resistance is futile," Vex told her. "Surrender now and I will show mercy to the survivors." Mirai looked at him with tired but defiant eyes. "You wouldn't know mercy if you saw it. We were wrong to seek peace with creatures like you, but we were also wrong to sacrifice an innocent being to save ourselves. If this is our punishment, so be it." Vex killed her without hesitation, making an example for all to see. Back on the warship, Daiho heard the reports coming over the communication system. The Krythos officers spoke casually about the casualties, the resources being collected, the prisoners being processed. Every word was a knife in his heart. His people, his friends, dying because no one had listened. That night something changed in Daiho. The guilt, the grief, the rage, it all crystallized into cold determination. The peaceful man who had tried to fit into Valanthi society died in that cell. What remained was the soldier, the survivor, the warrior who had nothing left to lose. He studied his cell carefully. The energy barrier had a rhythm, flickering slightly every few seconds when the power cycled. The guards changed shifts at regular intervals. The ventilation system connected all the cells. It wasn't much, but it was enough. 3 days after the invasion began, a small group of Valanthi fighters launched a desperate attack on the warship itself. It was a suicide mission, everyone knew it, but they hoped to damage the command center enough to disrupt Krythos operations. The attack failed, but it created chaos throughout the ship. In that chaos, Daiho made his move. When the energy barrier flickered during the attack, he threw himself against it, breaking through in the brief moment of weakness. Guards rushed toward him, but he was faster. He fought with skills they didn't expect, using their own momentum against them. He took a weapon from a fallen guard and moved through the ship like a shadow. He found a communications terminal and sent a brief message on the Valanthi frequency. "This is Daiho. I'm free. I'm coming. Hold on." Down on the surface, Hana heard the message through her damaged communicator. Tears streamed down her face. Relief, hope, and fear all mixed together. He was alive. He was fighting. And he was coming back for them. Daiho moved through the Krythos warship like a ghost. Years of military training had prepared him for exactly this kind of situation. The ship's layout was complex, but all warships followed similar patterns. He found the weapons storage first, taking what he needed. Then he accessed the navigation systems, learning where every Krythos unit was positioned on the moon below. Before leaving the ship, he set a surprise for his captors. He overloaded 3 power relays in different sections, timed to explode in sequence. The resulting chaos would cripple their communications for at least 12 hours. It wasn't much, but it would give the Volanthi a brief advantage. He stole a small escape pod and launched toward the moon. Behind him, explosions tore through the warship. The Krythos scrambled to respond, but Deho was already gone, descending through the atmosphere like a falling star. He landed in the forests outside the capital city, away from Krythos patrols. The destruction shocked him. Beautiful buildings lay in ruins. Smoke rose from multiple fires. Bodies of both Volanthi and Krythos littered the streets. This peaceful paradise had been turned into a war zone in just days. Deho activated his stolen communicator.
Hana, can you hear me? Static.
Then her voice, weak but alive. Deho, is that really you? It's me.
Where are you?
The underwater caves, eastern sector. We have maybe 200 survivors here. Deho, they killed Mirai, they killed Juno, so many others. Deho closed his eyes, grief washing over him. Juno, who had been so full of life and curiosity. Gone. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I couldn't protect them. This isn't your fault, Hana said fiercely. This is ours. We should have listened to you. We should have prepared. Now our people are paying for our arrogance and we can't change the past, Deho replied. But we can fight for your future. I'm going to hurt them, Hana. I'm going to make them regret coming here. How? There are thousands of them. Then I'll kill thousands, Deho said simply. Stay hidden. Keep the survivors safe. I'll contact you when I can. Over the next weeks, the Krythos forces learned to fear the human. Deho struck without warning and disappeared before they could respond. He destroyed supply convoys using improvised explosives. He sabotaged their mining equipment. He hacked their communication systems, feeding them false information that sent patrols to empty locations while he attacked elsewhere. But more than that, he hunted their officers. The Krythos commanders who had ordered the deaths of innocents found themselves stalked by an enemy they couldn't see. They died in their quarters in their vehicles during their patrols. Each death was quick, efficient, and carried the same message. You are not safe. The Krythos had never faced an opponent like this. Most species they conquered either surrendered immediately or fought conventional battles they could easily win. But Deho fought like water, flowing around their strengths and exploiting their weaknesses. He used their own tactics against them, turning their confidence into paranoia. Commander Vex became obsessed with catching him. He sent his best hunters, his most advanced tracking systems, his deadliest soldiers. None of them came back. The human was always one step ahead, always prepared, always dangerous. During this time, Deho made contact with the Volanthi survivors. Hana and the others watched him work with a mixture of awe and horror. This was not the gentle, peaceful man they had known. This was something else entirely. A predator, efficient and merciless. Is this what humans are really like? One Volanthi asked Hana quietly. No, Hana replied. This is what humans become when you hurt the people they love. Deho began teaching the Volanthi survivors how to fight. Not the chaotic, desperate fighting they had done at first, but real tactics. How to ambush, how to hide, how to use terrain, how to strike and fade away. The Volanthi were reluctant at first, still clinging to their peaceful ideals. But necessity overcame philosophy. I know this goes against everything you believe, Deho told them during one training session. I'm not asking you to become killers. I'm asking you to become survivors. There's a difference. You fight not because you love violence, but because you love each other. You fight to protect, not to destroy. Slowly, the Volanthi resistance grew stronger. They began coordinating attacks with Deho, hitting multiple targets simultaneously. The Krythos forces found themselves spread thin, never knowing where the next strike would come from. One night, Deho sat with Hana overlooking the ruins of her city. They had just finished a successful raid on a Krythos weapons depot. Both were exhausted, covered in dirt and minor injuries. Do you hate us? Hana asked suddenly.
For betraying you?
Deho was quiet for a long moment. No, you did what you thought was right. You tried to save your people the only way you knew how. I can't hate you for that. But we were wrong, she said bitterly. So terribly wrong. Being wrong doesn't make you evil. It makes you mortal. Deho looked at her. Besides, if you hadn't saved me in the first place, none of this would matter. You gave me life. I'm just returning the favor. Can we actually win this? Hana asked. There are so many of them. Maybe not, Deho admitted, but we can make them pay for every inch of ground. We can make them remember that conquering this moon wasn't worth the cost. And maybe, if we're lucky and smart, we can hurt them badly enough that they leave. The next morning, Deho received intelligence that Commander Vex would be personally inspecting a mining operation. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for. If he could eliminate Vex, the entire Krythos operation would be thrown into chaos. Leadership transitions always created vulnerabilities. He gathered the best Valanthi fighters. This is going to be dangerous. Vex will have heavy security. Some of us might not come back. We understand. One of them replied. We fight for those who cannot. Hana stepped forward. I'm coming too. Hana, no. You're too important to the survivors. If something happens to you, I need to be there, she interrupted. You've fought alone long enough. Let me fight beside you. Deho wanted to argue, but he saw the determination in her eyes. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about the Valanthi reclaiming their agency, their right to defend themselves. Who was he to take that from them? All right, he agreed. But you follow my lead, no matter what. They prepared for the most dangerous mission yet, a strike against Commander Vex himself. Win or lose, nothing would be the same after this. The mining operation sat in a valley surrounded by hills. Deho and his team positioned themselves on the high ground, watching the Krythos forces below. Hundreds of soldiers guarded the site, along with automated defense systems and heavy weapons. In the center of it all, Commander Vex inspected the mining equipment, clearly confident in his security. That's suicide, one of the Valanthi whispered. We'll never get through all those guards. We're not going through them, Deho replied. We're going under them. He showed them his plan. The valley had underground water channels that the Valanthi knew well. They could swim through these channels and surface right inside the command center. It would be risky, requiring perfect timing and coordination, but it was their only chance. They waited until nightfall. The team, consisting of Deho, Hana, and 8 Valanthi fighters, entered the water channels. The Valanthi, being aquatic, moved easily through the dark underwater passages. Deho struggled more, but Hana stayed close to help him navigate. They surfaced inside a storage building near the command center. Deho checked his weapons while the others caught their breath. The next part would be the hardest, fighting through the guards to reach Vex. Remember the plan, Deho said quietly. We split into 2 groups. First group creates a distraction on the east side. That will draw most of the guards away. Second group goes straight for Vex. Once we've eliminated him, we run back to the water channels and escape. One of the Valanthi, a young fighter named Tai Yang, spoke up. And if we can't escape? Deho met his eyes. Then we make sure Vex dies with us. Either way, the Krythos lose their leader. They moved into position. The distraction team waited until Deho's signal, then opened fire on a weapons depot. Explosions lit up the night sky. Alarms blared. Hundreds of Krythos soldiers rushed toward the attack exactly as planned. Deho's team ran toward the command center. They fought their way through the remaining guards, moving fast and hitting hard. Taeyang took a blast meant for Hana and fell. Another Valanthi went down, protecting their retreat. Every meter cost them dearly. They burst into the command center to find Vex waiting for them. The commander had anticipated their move. His elite guards surrounded him, weapons raised. The human returns, Vex clicked his mandibles. I'm almost impressed. You've caused more damage than any conquered species in recent memory, but this ends now. You're right, Deho replied, raising his weapon. This does end now. The fight was brutal. Vex's guards were the best the Krythos had. The remaining Valanthi fighters fell one by one, buying time for Deho and Hana to get closer to their target. When only the 2 of them remained, Vex dismissed his guards with a gesture. I'll handle them myself, he said. I want to understand what makes you so difficult to kill. Vex was fast, stronger than he looked, and trained in combat. He moved like liquid, avoiding their attacks and striking back with precision. Deho's military training helped, but Vex had centuries of experience. Hana fought beside him, using her knowledge of biology to target vulnerable points in the Krythos anatomy. Why do you fight? Vex asked as they clashed. The Valanthi betrayed you. They gave you to us. Yet you die for them anyway. Because that's what it means to be human, Deho grunted, blocking a strike. We fight for people even when they don't deserve it. We forgive even when it hurts. We love even when it makes us weak. Love is weakness, Vex hissed. No, Hana said. landing a strike that made Vex stumble. Love is why we're still standing when everything says we should quit. Love is why we'll keep fighting even when you kill us. You'll never understand that. Vex lunged at Hana, moving to kill her. Deho threw himself in the way, taking the blow meant for her. Pain exploded through his chest, but he grabbed Vex's weapon arm, holding it tight. Hana seized the opportunity, driving her weapon into Vex's vulnerable throat. The commander fell, his multiple eyes dimming. Deho collapsed beside him, bleeding heavily. Hana dropped to his side, pressing her hands against his wound. "No, no, no," she whispered. "Stay with me." "You need to go," Deho gasped. "The whole facility will be here soon. I won't leave you." "You have to. Your people need you." He coughed, blood on his lips. "There's a better way out. The main reactor is below us. I can overload it. The explosion will destroy this whole facility and take out half their forces. But you need to be far away when it happens. Deho, please. I'm not going to make it anyway," he said gently. "Let me do this. Let me give your people a chance." Tears streamed down Hana's face. She kissed his forehead. "Thank you. For everything." "I love you. I love you too," Deho whispered. "Now go, please." Hana forced herself to stand and run. She didn't look back, couldn't look back, or she would never leave. She reached the water channels and dove in, swimming as fast as she could toward safety. Deho dragged himself toward the reactor controls. Every movement was agony, but he kept going. He thought about his colony ship, about the people he couldn't save. He thought about the Valanthi, who had given him a second chance at life. He thought about Hana, and hoped she would forgive him for this. Krythos soldiers burst into the command center, finding their dead commander and the human at the reactor controls. They raised their weapons, but they were too late. "For Thalassia," Deho said, and hit the override. The explosion was visible from space. It tore through the valley, consuming the mining operation, the Krythos forces, and everything within a kilometer radius. The shockwave knocked Hana off her feet even though she was far away. She watched the massive fireball rise into the sky, knowing what it meant. Deho was gone, but his sacrifice achieved what he intended. With Vex dead and half their forces destroyed, the remaining Krythos troops fell into chaos. Their supply lines were broken. Their leadership was gone. Within days, the surviving Krythos forces retreated, deciding this moon was too costly to hold. The Valanthi had won, but the victory felt hollow. 4 months passed slowly. The Valanthi worked tirelessly to rebuild their world. The damage was extensive, but they were determined. New buildings rose from the ruins, different from before, stronger, more practical. They had learned hard lessons about survival. Hana led the new council. She was different now, harder and sadder, but also wiser. The naive idealism that had defined the old Valanthi was gone, replaced by a more realistic worldview. They were still peaceful people at heart, but now they understood that peace sometimes required the strength to defend it. They built monuments to remember those lost. The largest stood in the center of the rebuilt capital, a statue of a figure looking up at the stars. It bore no name, but everyone knew who it represented. The human who had given everything to save them. Every day Hana visited the monument and spoke to it as if Deho could hear her. "We're getting better," she told the statue one morning. "The children are laughing again. The ocean is starting to heal. We're establishing a defense force just like you wanted, not to attack anyone but to make sure we're never helpless again." She paused, wiping away tears. "I miss you. Every day, I keep thinking about what I'd say if I could see you one more time. Thank you, probably. I'm sorry, definitely. I love you, certainly." That afternoon, the sensors detected a small ship entering their space. The defense force went on alert immediately, but the ship transmitted a friendly signal. It was a civilian freighter requesting permission to land for repairs. "Permission granted," Hana said from the command center, "but we'll send a security team to meet them." The old Valanthi would have welcomed any stranger with open arms. The new Valanthi were more careful. The security team arrived at the landing pad as the freighter set down. It was old and damaged, clearly having been through rough times. The cargo ramp lowered. A figure emerged, moving slowly and carefully. The security team raised their weapons, then froze in shock. One of them activated their communicator with shaking hands. "Hana, you need to come to the landing pad. Right now. What's wrong?" she asked. "Just, please come. You have to see this." Hana ran through the city streets, her heart pounding with fear and confusion. What could have rattled her security team so badly? When she reached the landing pad, she saw them standing in a semicircle, staring at something, or someone. She pushed through the crowd and stopped dead. Deho stood there alive. He was scarred, thinner, and leaning heavily on a walking stick. But it was definitely him. His eyes met hers and he smiled weakly. "Hi," he said simply. Hana couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Her mind tried to process what she was seeing but couldn't accept it. He was dead. She had watched him die. This had to be a dream or a cruel trick. "It's really me," Deho said gently. "I know this must be a shock." She ran to him and he caught her despite his injuries. They held each other, both crying, both laughing, both unable to believe this was real. "How?" Hana finally managed to ask. "The explosion, we saw it." "Nothing could have survived that." "I overloaded the reactor, but there was an escape pod in the maintenance level below. I barely made it inside before the explosion. The blast threw the pod into space. I drifted for weeks before a freighter picked me up." He touched her face gently. "I tried to get back sooner, but I was badly injured. The freighter crew helped me recover, but it took time." News of Deho's return spread through the city like wildfire. People came running to see the miracle with their own eyes. The human who had died for them had returned from the dead. Children who barely remembered him came with flowers. Adults who had fought beside him came with tears and embraces. That evening, Deho stood before the council. He was nervous, unsure of his reception. After all, he had left to find other humans. Would they even want him to stay? "I want to be honest with you," he began. "I'm planning to leave. There might be other human survivors out there, scattered across the galaxy. I need to find them, to warn them about the Kratos, to help them if I can." The council members looked at each other. Then Hana stood. "No," she said firmly. Deho blinked in surprise. "What?" "We're not letting you go," Hana continued. "You gave us everything. You saved us when we didn't deserve saving. You taught us how to survive. You died for us." Her voice broke. "We owe you more than we can ever repay. You have a home here, a family here. We need you." The other council members nodded in agreement. One of them spoke up. "You once asked to stay with us, and we agreed on the condition that you follow our ways. Now we're asking you to stay on your terms. Teach us to defend ourselves. Help us become stronger. Be the bridge between peaceful hearts and necessary strength." Deho felt emotions warring inside him. Part of him still wanted to search for other humans, to find survivors, to rebuild what was lost. But another part, the part that had been lonely and broken when he first arrived, knew he had already found what he was looking for. "What about my people?" he asked quietly. "If there are survivors, then we'll help you find them," Hana said. "Together, we'll send out scout search missions. You don't have to do this alone anymore. Let us be there for you the way you were there for us." Deho looked around the chamber at the faces of people who had become his family, people he had fought for, bled for, nearly died for. They were offering him something precious, a home, a purpose, unconditional acceptance. "On one condition," he said finally. "Name it," Hana replied immediately. "Promise me that you'll never stop being who you are. Don't let what happened turn you into something cruel. Fight when you must, but never lose your compassion. Stay peaceful in your hearts even when your hands must be strong." "We promise," the council said in unison. Deho smiled. "Then I'll stay." The chamber erupted in celebration. People embraced, cried happy tears, and began planning the future. A future where peace and strength coexisted, where compassion and defense went hand in hand. 5 years later, Deho stood on the cliffs overlooking the ocean. The scars on his body had faded but would never completely disappear. He didn't mind. They were reminders of where he had been and what he had overcome. Hana joined him, slipping her hand into his. Together they watched as Valanthi children played in the waves below. Some of them were learning combat techniques while others studied art and music. The new generation understood that survival required both sword and song, both strength and beauty. "Do you ever regret staying?" Hana asked. Deho pulled her closer. "Not for a second. I spent so long searching for a place to belong. I just didn't realize I'd found it until you refused to let me leave." "We couldn't let you go," she said softly. "You're part of us now. You always will be." Far above them, ships patrolled the moon's orbit, the new Valanthi defense force trained by Deho himself. They were ready now. If the Kratos or anyone else came seeking to harm this world, They would find a people who had learned the most important lesson of all, that the greatest strength comes not from the ability to fight, but from having something worth fighting for. Deho smiled as the sun set over the peaceful ocean. They had found him dying and desperate, offered him refuge, and now they wouldn't let him go. He wouldn't have it any other way.